is what Mike Israetel does.
Because he's a clown or because it looks like a clown?
Things keep getting worse for Mike Israetel again. This is the second time we've had a Mr. Olympia winner just dogpiling on Mike Israetel.
Okay, I guess I'm Mike's friend. He's not here, so Dr. Mike, your physique's nowhere near Mike Mensa. A bag of shit that gets bigger is just a bigger bag of shit.
Can this get any worse?
He's a clown.
My name is Shreddy, a professional wrestler and the 2022 NABBA Mr. Britain bodybuilding champion.
So as well as calling Mike Israetel Clown Mike, let's see what former Mr. Olympia Chris Bumstead has to say to Jesse's questions.
Build a balanced physique. You walk around and you see a dude like wearing shorts like your dad.
It's always
his
the dad.
Kid, and they have calves and you're like, I want those.
I can completely relate with this. My quads, especially when I was younger and I started competing, my quads and hamstrings were overdeveloped compared to my upper body. So when you're wearing a pair of shorts, all of the work you put into your legs, you're hiding because of the shorts. You can't actually see the developed parts of the leg because it's covered with the shorts. The calf itself is on display and it just looks a bit like meh. I think most bodybuilders will agree that you can develop your calves, but to get truly freakish calves, it does come down to genetics, just like a lot of top level bodybuilding. And this is something that in Mike's videos he just fails to grasp, and he fails to understand that it doesn't matter how much muscle you get, how shredded you can get. It doesn't matter if you're
bigger and stronger than Mike Mensa. That's it.
A bag of shit that gets bigger is just a bigger bag of shit.
physique will ultimately be determined by your genetics. Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't train hard. You should always be trying to improve, but not everybody is cut out to be a professional bodybuilder. Me included. I'm not a pro bodybuilder. I am not good enough to be a pro bodybuilder. The difference between Shreddy and Clown Mike is that I am realistic enough to understand that.
When you train to failure, do you stop at technical or are you finding a way to just get that up?
It depends.
A lot of that today.
Great question, and again, great answer. It depends. That is the theme of this video. And what I hope you can all take away from this critique, this reaction, this video, is that there is ultimately no one right way, no one wrong way to always be doing things. You need to find what works for you. You need to train in a way that is going to meet the needs that you're looking for.
I'm at a phase where it's just annihilating myself as much as possible. Then it's half reps, quarter reps, whatever, just like kill something. But if the goal is technical failure, then I just stop at technical failure.
Again, making it sound so easy and so simple. If you want to absolutely annihilate a muscle, then go to failure. Then maybe do some partial reps or some forced reps, get somebody to spot you. Then maybe lower the weight and drop set it. Maybe superset with something else. Maybe let the form go a little bit and do some cheat reps. There's loads of ways you can make your set more intense, and there's loads of ways you can go beyond failure. So in those cases that you may just want to completely exhaust the muscle, then yeah, that's sometimes a valid way to be able to train. There's other times where you will want to keep the most strict form possible. And in that scenario, once you're pushing, and as soon as you're not able to complete a full rep, that's when you stop. As to which one is better, who knows? There's no science out there that has been tested at looking at experienced lifters or bodybuilders over a long enough duration. The answer is truly, it depends. Some people will benefit more from going to textbook failure and then doing some partials and some cheat reps beyond there. Some people might just benefit more so from perfect form all the time. What is more important here is finding a way that you enjoy to train and that actually gets results for you. And once again, being consistent with it.
I also would argue you don't necessarily need a back squat, but a squat movement where your hamstring is touching your calf and you're getting a lot of knee flexion.
Oh, wow.
The most you can do that, I believe, that range of motion with a heavy load is how you build huge legs.
This is really good advice, because the hardcore meathead approach to this is you have to squat to get big legs. But what Chris says here, his opinion, which I would agree with, is you don't have to do a barbell back squat, but you have to do some kind of squatting motion to be able to cause that stimulus, to be able to train the muscle in that way, to be able to develop truly big legs. So while a barbell squat isn't essential, you're probably going to make better gains if you are able to train in some kind of squat movement, whether it's a machine, whether it is a barbell, whether it's a front squat, a hack squat, a sissy squat, machine squat, whatever it is. doing some kind of squatting movement is probably going to lead to big legs.
If you have problems and you can't squat, can you show me the next best thing? Because a lot of people can't squat.
Which there's probably a problem that they should probably fix.
Okay.
Bodybuilders, myself, are like, oh, I can't squat, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna go use machines and just inhibit my injury to get worse and worse and my range of motion to be stuck like here.
Very interesting take here, and it is very common. When people find a movement uncomfortable, there's probably an underlying issue for that. So the easy route is just to swap the movement out, and that's valid to do. As we've just heard, Chris says you don't have to do a barbell back squat to build big legs. If you find that there is a problem with your squat, it is easier in some cases just to go and do a machine. However, what we could sometimes focus on instead is figuring out what is the cause of the problem, whether you need to do some physio, some rehab, whether you need to build some support muscles. Try and find the root cause of the problem and fix it so that you're able to do that movement. But don't get hung up on having to do that one movement to make the gains. There's loads of options out there.
Interesting that you chose lying, not to bring up science again. It's like bringing up an X.
Right.
But science says that seated builds more muscle.
Seated with a hip hinge, so maybe there's a movement later on with a hip hinge.
So again, quoting science here, it's almost a redundant point, and the reason for that is I'm not disputing science. I have a degree, I have a master's, I'm currently researching for a PhD, not in sports science, in a completely different field. But what is important to note when it comes to research and science is who the sample of the study is, what the duration of the sample is, and just being aware that the data can be manipulated to get across what the researcher wants to get across. What we're seeing here is Chris Bumstead's top 10 exercises to build muscle. It's his opinion, okay? And that's what all of this is just his opinion. But then straight away, Jesse is suggesting or asking about, oh, well, what about a seated over the line because there's better, science shows there's better gains there.
That's it.
What study in the science-based lifting community shows that a seated builds more muscle than the lying curl? Who was the sample size? How long was the duration? What kind of reps were being used? Were people trained to failure? Were they not trained to failure? There's just so many variables that we can't really control. It's just almost a redundant point. Just looking at, okay, we need some kind of curl of the hamstring moving at the knee. That's probably going to be enough to allow you to make gains. And again, I'm not arguing that the seated might be able to build more muscle than the lying, but what I'm arguing about, or what I'm trying to stress here, is don't get stressed on that. If you feel a lying machine more than a seated machine, if you prefer the lying over the seated, or if you don't have access to a seated lying hamstring curl, then just do the lying machine. It's not a case of stressing over. The difference between that will be negligible, completely negligible.
Safe to say, it depends.
It depends.
Guys, comment below, hashtag it depends.
Hashtag it depends.
All right, we're gonna put that on a t-shirt, right?
depends.
It depends.
Just me being my hello.
I love this because now they're just making a joke out of it, but it's so true. And this is really like, I suppose the point I want to try and get across in this video is there is nothing wrong with science-based lifting as a principle. The problem is science-based lifters who are very dogmatic in their approach, and because a very limited study will show that this one particular thing might lead to 3% more gains, they're disregarding everything else. If you don't do this one particular exercise, you're wasting your time. If you don't train in my way, you're wasting your time. There's so many more variables to look at, and as Chris is saying in this video, a lot of these things just comes down to it depends.
I'll go from 35 degrees to 90 degrees.
Really? Have you ever done it like laying down where you're like...
I haven't done that.
I call it the clown curl. This is what Mike Israetel does.
You call it that? Because he's a clown or because it looks like a clown?
Because like everyone clowns on it.
Okay.
I trademarked it.
Does it feel good?
It feels like my biceps about to rip off the bone.
So key takeaways from this video is science isn't always right. The bros aren't always right. You need to keep an open mind and not just think that one thing is the ultimate way to do it. As an example, Dorian Yates preaches the only way to build muscle is training every single set to failure. Dr. Mike, who is
I'm bigger and stronger than Mike Menser.
says that is a waste of time, you need to do reps in reserve. They have both built muscle. They have both improved their physique. Dr. Mike, unarguably, has way worse genetics than Dorian Yates because look at his physique. However, Dr. Mike has still built muscle. He's still improved his physique with one style of training. Dorian Yates became Mr. Olympia, but also became very injured with his style of training. Maybe either of these can consider that there are other ways to do things other than just the way that they do it. Find out what works best for you and appreciate that this is my way, this is my preferred way of doing it, and do that. But also understand that for other people, there might be a way that they can train better for them. For example, not everybody has the intensity, has the right attitude, the mental attitude. Not everybody can be bothered to train as hard as what Dorian Yates would do. So if they're going into the gym and just doing one set to quote-unquote failure, they're not actually training in the most optimal way. If they do train like that, and even if they get pushed through, you know, get force reps and things like that, they might just not like that style of training. They might not be consistent with it. So training to failure might not be the best way for them. Likewise, people might go to the gym and train with RIR and reps in reserve and not train as hard and do more sets. They might prefer that style of training. They might prefer spending longer in the gym. So that might be their preferred way of training. If that's their preferred way of training, if they're going to stick to it, they're going to make better gains. I am not here to say one way is better than the other. What I am here to say is people quoting scientific studies and even pro bodybuilders who said that their way is the only way, appreciate that that is the best way for you. Your way might not be the best way for everyone. Because remember, if Ronnie trained like Dr. Mike, he would be even better. And if Dorian trained like Dr. Mike, he would be an even better Mr. Olympia. I've been Shreddy. I hope you're ready to hit that subscribe button. Like the video if you liked it. And until next time, keep clanging and banging.